Well, a lot more coming up on the show tonight. Let's get into it now with our political panel, National Senate Leader Bridget McKenzie and former Labor MP Michael Danby. Great to see you both. Look, Anthony Albanese has accused the Coalition and the Greens of teaming up to block Labor's housing policy in the Senate. The PM tweeted this afternoon that Australians want their leaders to act now to make housing more affordable. Yet today, the Liberals and Greens teamed up to block more help to buy a home. Now, there is speculation that the PM could call a double dissolution election, and he didn't rule it out when Clennell asked him about it yesterday. Bridget McKenzie, what are the Coalition's issues with this legislation?
Good evening, Shari. Well, we just don't think it's the right approach to actually free up supply that we know is needed in this country. We've seen images all day of construction workers on the streets of Melbourne. We know we've got the lowest new starts of new homes since 2011 under Labor. Meanwhile, they're pouring, over a million people into our crowded suburbs. So this is not the right mechanism with which to do it. The Greens think they can land a deal with the Labor Party if they have some more time to negotiate, and that's what they've sought to do, and we've been able to facilitate that. So it's up to the Labor Party and the Greens to bury the hatchet, get the band back together, and for the Labor Party to actually either put the deal on the table that will get Adam Banton, his team, across the line or not, or it'll be voted down by the end of the year. But we've got a whole raft of a suite of initiatives that we'll be taking to the election to open up supply on the supply side of the housing market, because it's not just about social and affordable housing, obviously. We want to see Australians own their own home too.
And this is becoming a major issue, home ownership and the high price of renting with the inflation and cost of living crisis. Look, I just want to talk about the fact that the Prime Minister didn't rule out a double dissolution. It seems like that's all talk. He's unlikely to do that because he doesn't want to go to an election this year. What do you think, Michael?
He'd be a fool, but then that's not beyond the possibility with him. Look, you'd end up with even more crossbenchers in the Senate. Already we've made a tragic mistake of giving preferences to the Greens, which has got them elected in a number of lower house seats. Those Greens wouldn't be elected without Labor Party preferences.
That's right.
And they've become such an existential danger to the Labor Party that even the socialist left should understand it. And a double D would be madness.
I really think, that the pressure now needs to be ramped up on the PM about what preference deals he is going to do with the Greens. He criticises them all the time correctly, but is he going to rely on them if he needs to form government? And what are the preference deals? I think we need to have the answers to this. What do you think, Bridget?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Shari, and it was pretty fiery question time this week. It's a Senate-only sitting, and these are exactly the types of questions that Penny Wong and Murray Watt, two of the factional left Labor ministers, are getting. And their response to the Greens political party here in the Senate every single question time this week is a very emotional one. They're furious and they know they're stuck between a rock and a hard place. The Greens are monstering their the left-wing Labor constituency, and they're powerless to do anything about it. But Michael's dead right. The Senate and the House are full of Greens because of the Labor Party. And so I think the Coalition, we had a lot of fun today. That's exactly what we were asking them during question time across the raucous chamber was, if you hate it so much, put them last. Didn't look like they were going to take that up.
No, of course not, because for them, power is everything. Well, let's drill down a bit more on Penny Wong. Tomorrow, Australia will vote on a United Nations resolution. As you know, this calls for a ban on arms sales to Israel. It even calls for a boycott on Israeli companies. It calls for an unconditional withdrawal from Gaza. Never mind the fact that there are still 100 hostages held by terrorists in Gaza in dark tunnels. No mention, of course, of Hamas or October 7. The Biden administration has slammed this resolution, calling it inflammatory and one-sided. Penny Wong is already embarrassing Australia by giving this pro-Hamas motion consideration. Michael, how can she possibly even be considering supporting this? And has she already lost all credibility as foreign minister?
She's more scared of the majority socialist left in her government and the alleged Muslim vote, which I think is greatly exaggerated in Western Sydney, than she is about political realities. The history of the Labor Party, Penny Wong, is that we always supported negotiations between the parties, not resolutions in the United Nations General Assembly, passed by automatic majorities with the Islamic countries imposed on the parties. You'll never get a settlement if you don't have both of them sit down. And Obama, Clinton and Bush all had the Palestinians nearly at the table and they ran away. Now, Penny Wong, face up to that.
Yeah, good point. Very good point. Bridget, this will be a major test for Labor. I think they're going to abstain. That's my instinct. What do you think?
Well, we're reading in the most recent reports that Australia is attempting to water it down and amend it, etc. I mean, this is a point in time again for Penny Wong and Anthony Albanese's Labor Party to take a stand on the global stage, to stop equivocating, to stop siding with Hamas sympathisers and terrorist sympathisers, and stand with our ally Israel at her time of need. It's an opportunity to send a very clear signal, not just to the international community, but here at home. I'd be encouraging the Foreign Minister to not do it a third time in the UN, to actually do the right thing, because as we know, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good men and women in the 21st century to do nothing. And this is her chance to stand up, not just for Israel, but for the Jewish community here at home that's very supportive of, obviously, the Israeli community.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the fight is against terrorists. We just had the anniversary of September 11. I mean, fundamental Islamic extremism, terrorism led to, was what caused September 11. This is a war against all of us in the West, not just Jews, of course. Bridget McKenzie, Michael Danby, thank you very much for joining me once again.